other thing that's going to happen too, which I invented about 30 years ago. And that is, if you go to a supermarket, now about a third of the shelves are devoted to doggies and pussies and things. And, and there's all this stuff for them. Nothing for them to drink. If you just took a little shed somewhere, preferably below, just below a sewage works, you see, you could just get all the water from the sewage works, can it up into little doggy drinks, you see. And you could either call it doggy drink or Kenner wine or something like that. And you get a doctor to analyze the sort of sewer water. And of course it would absolutely be full of the most marvelous chemicals and things, you see. You have a great thing on the side saying what it contained. You could leave out the lead and the cyanide and things like that, you see. And then you just flooded the supermarket chain with this liquid, Kenner wine. And I reckon you'd make $1 million in about a couple of weeks. All of us would.
That's just from the dogs and cats?
Just the dogs and cats. And then if someone thought there were too many dogs and cats, if they thought that the RSPCA cost too much money or something like that, you could put something in it and poor little doggies and things wouldn't live long. You could do that. I mean, it's rather a nasty thing to think about, but it might come to that when the world's starving and things. You never know. But I can't think of any other. Oh, it's my cigarette in me. You don't want to hear that as well, do you?
Well,
now, this is the most tremendous way of making money. Because what you do, smoking is bad for you, right? So, and also, smoking is sort of slightly sort of nutritionally wrong, because it's returning to the mother's breast, you see, so it should have a liquid inside it, more than just smoke. You get that, don't you? And what's that? And so what you do, you get a little plastic tube that looks just like a cigarette, and you fill it with whiskey and soda or gin and tonic or something like that, see? And it's on a spray jet thing. It's, you know, against the ozone layer, unless you have the right stuff inside it, one of those things, you know? And as you press this to your lips, you depress the valve, and you get completely vaporized whiskey and soda or something, you know? And anyway, just think of that for a moment, and I'll have to go back to explain it to you properly. Normally we take a drink, and we slurp it down, you know. And I think it must just float as just as a little tiny area on top of the stuff in the stomach. So it bites into the bloodstream only around the edges. See, you're wasting all that vast area of liquid. And this way, you see, I mean, even with a carburettor, and petrol is cheaper than whiskey, with a carburettor you take all that trouble of fuel injection and all these kind of things, you see. But for drinks we just slurp them down. See, it's uneconomic. No wonder we're in a crisis and the old Major and people are in trouble, you see. They don't think of these things. We've got to deal with things in the fundamentals all the time. That's the way. And what happens is that with this thing you just get this vapor, you see, and it hits the maximum surface area of your lungs. So your lungs are immediately impregnated with this vapor, instead of that kind of meniscus thing around your stomach. And theoretically you would have one puff and feel really quite sort of squiffy. You see? Now we flood the market with this shortly after we've done the Kennewan, because this will take quite a lot of money to set up, you see. We flood the market with these packets of cigarettes, which are gin or whiskey or something, you see. In fact, you can probably advertise them because they won't be cigarettes. They'll be little pressurized whiskey and things like that. And so what you do is flood the market. Everyone finds this is the cheapest way to drink. And so gradually Mr. Gilby can't sell his gin, and Mr. Buchanan or Bell's or someone, whiskey suddenly starts, right? They find that we're the only outlet. Because people just want them for their cigarettes. See? So by that time, you either continue, but there are probably several laws being passed against what you're doing with the vaporized cigarette by now. And the board would have to decide whether to sell off to the distillers and people like that for many millions, you see, so that all the patents and things can just be shelved and the thing can be held at bay for 20 years, you see. I know a lot about this, didn't I? Or you just go on and bring everyone to their knees, you see. Or the legislation comes through and you all end up like the Robert Maxwells and people.